This is the Reviewing Network Live, a weekly stream of consciousness recording session where I sit back with you folks out there, talk about some of the big news stories from the past week, and some other things I found that might be of amusement to you out there. I think you might get a kick out of it. Now, these are more like audio podcasts and are much longer than my usual videos and are also for the most part unedited and will contain some foul language. So, if you're easily offended by that, I advise you to maybe step back a bit, maybe go somewhere else. But hey, if you're up to the challenge, sit back, relax, and enjoy the show. Thanks. And for the 128th time, we are live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Reviewing Network Live, coming to you live from the Reviewing Network studios. We have a lot to get to. Of course, it's been a very busy last month doing the Sunday Night NFL rewatches, but the NFL season is now officially over. It is the off-season. It's the least enjoyable time of the year, at least for the next month, until free agency kicks in, and then the month after that we got the draft, and then it's back to the doldrums. But we are back to our regularly scheduled programming here, at least until the beginning of the football season in September. So we are going to be doing this for a very, very long time. So I hope you will enjoy this. I want to thank all of you out there who watched the Sunday Night NFL rewatches this past season. Once again, I really do appreciate it. And, right now we've got the Madden 26 tournament going on. We had a couple of good games today. The Colts losing to the Lions 69-35. Tampa Bay beating Minnesota in a close one, 58-55. Let's just say that I've recorded some of these games in advance, and I'm going to tell you right now, these are some high-scoring games that are in this tournament that's going on right now. I mean, I have it on even teams every time that I do these games. Apparently, even teams means defenses don't do shit except for punching the ball out, causing fumbles, and that's about it. There's been no interceptions up to this point as of the time of recording this, but yeah, it's one of those things where it's just like, it's a weird thing, but it's a fun time overall, and that's going to be continuing all the way into the end of next month, but that's a whole other thing altogether. If you want to check out the first two games, they're right here on the channel, but you are here to see me do the regular program that you come to expect from me, the Reviewing Network Live. And we have a lot of stories to cover, from some stories from the last couple of weeks. It's been a busy news week this week. We found out who's going to be the new CEO of Disney. We found out that, David Ellison's still simping for Warner Brothers to the point where Warner Brothers might want to consider getting a restraining order because it's getting goddamn ridiculous. A couple other stories from this past week, and most notably, we're going to be taking a look at the nominations for next month's The Reviewing Network Awards, which will be on Saturday, March 14th, the night before the Oscars, as we usually do here. So, got a lot to get to here, but of course, before we get to all that stuff, we start off where we usually start off with the weekend box office. And it was a very busy weekend this weekend, President's Day weekend, Valentine's Day weekend. A lot of things coming our way this weekend, so there's going to be a lot of big things to talk about, especially with the new releases. And all three of the big ones made it into the top three spots this weekend, so that should give you an indication of where things stand right now. And overall, the box office in general did not lose a whole lot in terms of the veterans that have been out there, the movies that have been out for the last couple of weeks. Case in point with the number 5 movie, Solo Mio, which sounds like the thing you would hear in the song Despacito. Solo Mio. What the hell was that? I don't know. I don't know what I'm talking about. But Solo Mio, this is the Angel Studios romantic comedy starring Kevin James and Allison Hannigan, which is surprisingly been getting a lot of good reviews. It was actually a well-received film. I think it got like an 86% Rotten Tomatoes, so this might be the first Angel Studios movie I'm kind of curious to check out one day. I mean, it looks like it could be decent, but brought in $6.8 million. Here's the thing about this weekend. A lot of these movies had small percentage droppages. Case in point with Solo Mio, 2.9% drop-off from last week, bringing its 2-week total now to $17.3 million. It's an Angel Studios movie, so I really don't think it costs that much money to put together. But if you include President's Day weekend numbers, it's a 4-day total with $8 million for the weekend, $18.5 million after 2 weeks, and yeah, it cost $4 million to make. So yeah, it's not a gigantic budget movie. And like I said, it's one that I'm kind of curious to check out, honestly. I think it might actually be kind of enjoyable, so I don't know. I'll definitely check it out when I get a chance to, but let's go ahead and move on to number 4, which was the number 1 movie for the last 2 weeks, and that's Sam Raimi's Send Help. And again, another example of a weekend where the percentages didn't really drop off that much. This weekend, it brought in $8.9 million, so about $9 million in general. Only dropped 0.9% from last week, which is really impressive for a movie like this, for a weekend like this to have that low of a percentage. I mean, you don't usually get that with a weekend like this, but, excuse me. $47.8 million, $47.9 million if you include for the 3-day total. If you include President's Day weekend, it was up to $10.7 million, bringing its 3-week total to $49.6 million. So yeah, this one, gigantic hit, a movie that Sony originally was going to pick it up, and then they originally were in development on it, and they were going to send it straight to streaming, but then Sam Raimi took it to Disney, and the results have spoken for itself. $73 million in worldwide release, on a budget of $40 million. So yeah, chalk another L to Sony for that one, because yeah, that would have been devastating. The same company that said K-pop Demon Hunters isn't going to become this global phenomenon, ship it off to Netflix. Who cares about that crap? Apparently a lot of people do, and by this time next month it could be getting an Academy Award for Best Animated Feature, along with a couple of other ones. But with that said, let's go ahead and get to the number 3 movie of the week. We're finally getting into some of the new releases, some of the bigger releases that were heavily marketed. Starting with our first one here, that is Crime 101, which is a new film from Bart Layton, the director who gave us The Imposter and American Animals, and stars Chris Hemsworth, Mark Ruffalo, Barry Keoghan, Monica Barbaro, Corey Hawkins, Jennifer Jason Leigh, Nick Nolte, and Halle Berry. It was a film about an elusive thief eyeing his final score, encountering a disillusioned insurance broker at her own crossroads. As their paths intertwine, a relentless detective trails them, hoping to thwart the multi-million-dollar heist they are planning. This movie brought in $15.1 million in its 3-day opening, but if you count the 4-day totals, it's about $18 million, which doesn't sound bad until you look at the budget for the movie. $90 million. MGM picked this up for about $90 million, and yeah, that's something where it's just kind of like, yeah, that's going to be really, really hard to get that money back in general here. But the good news is that it was the best reviewed film this weekend. It brought in 87% on Rotten Tomatoes, 68 out of 100 on Metacritic. The cinema score is a B, which is not the best overall, but it could have legs as we go along here. But if not, it's definitely going to find an audience through streaming and home media. I kind of want to see it, though. I saw the trailers for this a lot during the NFL postseason, so it could be a good movie overall. So we'll see what happens there. So let's go ahead and move on to the number 2 movie this week. Sony might have thought about Send Help to streaming, but good thing they didn't send Goat there, because it did good enough business overall. About $26 million this weekend for its 3-day totals. If you include the 4-day totals, it's up to $32 million. The budget on this was also $80 to $90 million, but considering that, you know, we haven't had a big kids film since Zootopia 2, which, by the way, is still hanging in there, even though it's out of the top 5. $3.7 million this weekend, dropping 6.1%. $419.3 million after 12 weeks. If you include the 4-day totals, it's up to $420 million. But more importantly, it's $4 million away from finally knocking off that god-awful Minecraft movie as the top-grossing film of 2025. Needless to say, I think it's definitely going to get there, which, thank God, man. But back to Goat, which I saw yesterday, and I actually did enjoy it. I will say that the story very much is a generic story overall. There's nothing really that amazing about it. It's basically an underdog story, except this time the dog is a goat. And the comedy can be very hit and miss overall, but I did like the characters. I love the animation. I love the inventive world they created here. I mean, it's not just Sony creating their own Zootopia clone. It might have started off that way, but no, this is like if you combine Zootopia with Space Jam. I mean, it really does feel like that because of the way that they handle these moves in this game that they've created here, this basketball-type sport that they have, Rollerball. And you do like the characters overall. Caleb McLaughlin, I think, is very good playing the character of Will. And, I was really afraid when I saw these trailers that he was going to be kind of like they were going to try to make him the Miles Morales of this world, where it really is not like that at all. It is a very entertaining film overall. I really enjoyed it. And, it's definitely one I'm going to be definitely looking forward to checking out again pretty soon. But, did well with critics, 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, Metacritic, 60 out of 100, and it has an A on Cinema Score. But also, keep in mind that we haven't had a big kids movie release. Well, actually, not since, I was going to say Zootopia 2, but then again, we had the SpongeBob movie come out before Christmas, and that did well enough. So, yeah, there's always a need for new kids films out there. So, and it's got a couple weeks before we get to Disney and Pixar's Hoppers, which is going to be very curious to see how that does, considering that the last couple of Pixar original films have not done very well, mostly because I think Disney failed to market them very well overall. But this one's been getting a lot of buzz. Hoppers is looking pretty good. I mean, it's made by the same people that did We Bare Bears, so yeah, I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out for certain. Which brings us to the number one movie of the week, the movie that everyone was expecting to be the top film of the weekend. And I'm, of course, talking about Margot Robbie starring in A Big, Bold, Beautiful God damn it, I keep doing that. I'm sorry. Like, I just watched that terrible movie, and it's a beautiful looking movie, but my God, it is a boring, bland movie. And sadly, Wuthering Heights is also that type of a film as well. Now, the big thing about this movie beforehand was that Netflix was willing to pay $150 million to lock up the distribution rights, but Warner Brothers basically ended up winning those rights for the much lower offer of $80 million after, Emerald Fennell, the director of this, and Margot Robbie wanted the film to have a theatrical release and a significant marketing campaign, which they did well enough to get people to come to theaters. And by the way, how awkward is that now with Warner Brothers being potentially bought up by Netflix pretty soon, a company that basically started off saying that they refuse to do theatrical releases, but now they're trying to lax it back, hopefully to get the rights back from Paramount. But we'll touch on that in just a second here. But Wuthering Heights brought in what did it bring in? $34.8 million in its 3-day opening. If you count the 4-day totals, it's up to $40 million, which is slightly lower than I think the studios were expecting with it. I think they were expecting somewhere around $50 to $55 million, but the film did not get the best reviews overall. It got very polarizing reviews. It got 63% on there. It got a lukewarm B on there, which is not very good. Which is not a very good sign for a film like this. And most people went to and apparently the film did pretty well in pre-ticket sales, but walk-up business seemed to be the biggest thing going against it, especially when you consider that people are going to go walk up on Valentine's Day to go check it out because it's a romantic movie, which I saw it, and I'll tell you this much right now, there ain't that much of it's not really that romantic, honestly. It's a movie where it is just kind of like, yeah, this thing really isn't working all that well. This is a movie that looks great, but man, it was a film that was just such a snooze fest, man. I did not enjoy this movie one bit, except for the visuals. But the fact that, you have this movie where they are literally taking liberties with the original story here. Now, I never read the original Wuthering Heights, so I can't really say how much difference of a story they may take from the original, but it basically tells you that, yeah, there's a lot of problems with the movie overall in terms of the way that they do this and the fact that it's pretty much a snooze fest overall. I mean, it's a movie where you try to get through it, but the relationship just isn't working with it. I mean, Margot Robbie and Jacob Elordi are great actors, but they have no chemistry in this whatsoever. And I keep bringing up A Big, Bold, Beautiful Journey because it literally felt like I was watching that movie again after watching it not too long ago. I mean, that's how bad this movie is. I mean, yeah, on a technical level, it's beautiful. It's amazing to look at, but other than that, though, yeah, there's nothing else about it that I think is going to really make it stand out overall. I mean, the film didn't do really all that well with a lot of critics either, with a lot of audiences either. It got did okay. 84% isn't too bad for this, and it seemed to look like it made more with, younger women. I think I'm looking at here on the Hollywood Reporter, it says here that while the most obvious go-to target audience for Wuthering Heights is older females, the studio's marketing team also worked hard to seduce Gen Zers and younger millennials, as reflected by much of the ad campaign. Their efforts paid off. Now the trick will be to get older females to show up as well. And it says here, throughout much of the weekend, 53% of the audience was between ages 18 to 34, yet the R-rated film was slapped with a B cinema score by a demo group the filmmakers assumed would be more sympathetic, which, yeah, that didn't turn out to be the case whatsoever. I mean, this film will probably make back that budget overall, but I think it's a movie that's going to get out of here pretty quickly overall. I mean, next weekend, actually, I think next weekend there's a better chance of possibly going back up to number one than this movie does. I think will have more success over the next couple of weeks than Wuthering Heights will, even though there really isn't a whole lot of big new releases. I think the only big one next week is Psycho Killer, and then there's also How to Make a Killing, which I have not seen much advertising for, or I Can Only Imagine 2, which That's going to be a movie more for the Christian audiences. And then the following week, there's literally nothing. Remember, this was supposed to be the weekend that The Cat in the Hat was supposed to be released. And then they pushed it back to November. So your only big Y releases is Pylon with Harry Melling and Alexander Skarsgård and K-Pops, which I know nothing about this. But, what am I saying? Scream 7 comes out that weekend, too. So, I mean, even then, Scream 7 probably will not do very well critically or financially because of the backlash from what they did in between Scream 6 and 7. So, I mean, it's going to be very intriguing to see how the next couple of weeks pan out here. But if there was one movie to pick that I would think would have better success over the next couple of weeks, it probably is GOAT. I think GOAT will probably end up being the number one movie next weekend and probably back down to number 2 when Scream 7 will probably take number 1. That's just my personal thinking behind that one. So there you go. That's the box office in general. In terms of other new releases, there was Gore Verbinski's latest film, Good Luck, Have Fun, Don't Die, which I know nothing about, from Briarcliff Entertainment, which brought in $4.1 million this weekend in about 1,600 theaters, so I guess that's not too bad. Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, again, another movie I don't know too much about, brought in $1.4 million. So other than that, that's about it in general in terms of the box office. Nothing too amazing, nothing too spectacular, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and get on to some of the big news stories from the last couple of weeks, starting off with, of course, the news about who will be taking over Disney. And if you've been following the last couple of weeks, it's not really much of a shocker on who it actually is. This is from CNBC, and it says that Disney has named Josh D'Amaro, chairman of Disney Experiences, as its next CEO, succeeding Bob Iger and clinching a closely watched succession race at the Mouse House. Investors, industry insiders, and onlookers have long awaited the announcement of who will take over as the next leader of one of the most storied U.S. companies. The appointment marks the second time in 6 years that Disney has selected a successor to Iger. His previous Pekin Park boss Bob Chapek developed into a public spectacle of corporate governance, and that saw Iger reclaim the CEO spot and restart the clock on retirement. D'Amaro's appointment will be effective as of March 18th at Disney's annual meeting. Iger will serve as a senior advisor and Disney's board member until he retires from the company on December 31st. Josh D'Amaro is an exceptional leader and the right person to become our next CEO, Iger said in a statement. He has an instinctive appreciation of the Disney brand and a deep understanding of what resonates with our audience, paired with the rigor and attention to detail required to deliver some of our most ambitious projects. His ability to combine creativity with operational excellency is exemplary, and I am thrilled for Josh and the company. For the last several years, the Disney board has been vetting candidates for the top job, primarily among Disney's executive ranks. Iger's four direct reports, D'Amaro, ESPN chairman Jimmy Pitaro, entertainment co-chairman Dana Walden, which we'll get to her in just a second, and Alan Bergman, all interviewed with the succession committee as early as 2024. Speculation narrowed to D'Amaro and Walden in recent months. Walden, meanwhile, was named President and Chief Creative Officer on Tuesday as part of the transition announcement. Also effective March 18th, Walden is set to report directly to D'Amaro and focus on the storytelling and content engine of Disney in their new creative role. If you think about what is at the heart of the Disney company, it's creativity. It's the amazing intellectual property that's been produced over decades, Gorman said Tuesday. James Gorman, the former Morgan Stanley CEO, who was actually involved with the selection of D'Amaro. D'Amaro will step into the role at Disney after a period of leadership uncertainty and mixed relationship from Wall Street on the state of Disney's business. On Monday, Disney reported quarterly's earnings and revenue that topped expectations, boosted by its theme parks and streaming, yet the stock lost 7%. Iger told investors that he was confident in the changes made at Disney over the last 3 years and its path to future success. In particular, the experiences unit that houses the theme parks, resorts, and cruises reported more than $10 billion in quarterly revenue during the period for the first time. The division's growth has left it with plenty of room to run. The company is planning on developing a new theme park and resort in Abu Dhabi, United Arab Emirates, separate from its commitment to investing $60 billion in its theme park over the next decade, and is looking to capitalize on its dominance at the box office in 2025. But front and center remains the state of the entertainment business as Disney navigates the erosion of traditional TV and puts its efforts behind marquee content and fueling profitability in the streaming business. It will be up to Iger's successor to steer Disney into its next phase. Now, of course, this is not the first time that Bob Iger has left, and they touch on it here in this article. They also mentioned Bob Chapek, who, the last time this happened, it did not work out very well for him. He was gone within a couple of years, and Iger had to come back overall. And that was definitely one thing where it's just kind of like, that was a tough pill to swallow during that time. But nevertheless, this definitely is an intriguing time for Disney right now, especially considering everything that's happened in the last year, all the stuff that went on behind the scenes. The whole controversy with AI, the whole Jimmy Kimmel controversy with the Trump administration. I mean, this is definitely something that, you know, there's been a lot of criticisms about the way the company has been handled overall. And Bob Iger did a lot for Disney that a lot of people really didn't realize back when he first got the job. I mean, keep in mind when Bob Iger got the job, he was criticized for being basically kind of a plant to Michael Eisner at the time, who was still trying to stay with the company. But because Bob Iger was working at ABC at the time, and then all of a sudden he comes into Disney, and look at what they've done in his first 15 years. I mean, they revolutionized their whole franchise company with all the acquisitions they picked up. When they bought Marvel, they bought Star Wars, and then they eventually bought 20th Century Fox. I mean, things are going good for the Disney right now in terms of their financial structures in general here. So it's going to be very interesting to see what D'Amaro can do here. And I think it's going to be a much smoother transition than the Chapek one, because you got to keep in mind, Iger basically handed Chapek off as the CEO immediately and basically just said, "Here you go, buddy. It's all yours. I'm out of here," and just ran away. But this time around, he's going to stick around to the end of the year, basically cause a smoother transition for this company overall. And I think it's going to work out in general. I think it's definitely going to work out very well here. It's going to be very curious to see how they work out the whole thing and get some of these exciting announcements coming up in the next year or so, especially with D23 coming up this summer. So that should be definitely something worth taking notice of here. And I'm really curious to see how the direction of this is going to go. And hopefully they can fix a lot of the problems that Bob Iger had in the last couple of years or so. But again, we'll see what happens then. But let's move on and take a look at the other big Hollywood movie studio story going on right now, and that's the fact that Paramount just won't stop bugging Warner Brothers, man. And I wasn't even going to go to this, but this article was literally on the same page of the Disney article that I just talked about here. But we have some new updates in the Paramount legal battle for Warner Brothers from Netflix and all that. But here's what we know as of right now on December 15th. Jesus, what's wrong with me? February 15th. Let's try that. February 15th, 2026 at 7:11 p.m. From CNBC, Warner Brothers Discovery's board is considering reopening sales talks with Paramount Skydance after recently receiving an amended offer with sweetened deal terms, Bloomberg News reported on Sunday, citing unnamed sources. Warner Brothers in December agreed to sell both its film studio and HBO Max streaming service to Netflix for $27.75 per share. Paramount, which owns CBS and MTV in December, launched a hostile bid for Warner Brothers, promising its shareholders $30 per share in an all-cash deal. Last week, Paramount upped the ante, saying that it would add a ticking fee of 25 cents a share to its offer for any delay in regulatory approval of the deal. The ticking fee would be approximately $650 million in cash value per quarter for every quarter the deal has not closed by December 31st, 2026, according to CNBC. Paramount also says it will cover a $2.8 billion termination fee paid to Netflix if the Warner Brothers deal is terminated. Paramount also said it will eliminate $1.5 billion in possible debt refinancing costs. Both Paramount and Netflix have said that they would be willing to raise their bets to secure the Warner Brothers deal, Bloomberg reported. However, this is the first time Warner Brothers has considered whether Paramount's offer could either result in a better deal or prompt Netflix to offer better deal terms, according to the report. And that's about it. So what exactly are they offering in this new deal here? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at this other article here. Is there anything in here that we haven't mentioned before? No, it doesn't look like it. So basically, I mean, it's basically just yet another a cog for this Netflix Warner Brothers deal to go through, because Paramount is so hell-bent on grabbing Warner Brothers and basically creating I can't even pronounce the name. An oligarchy, if you will, because of course they were already picked up by Skydance. They basically have made it. Paramount's now essentially become Trump's movie studio in a way, because he's already gotten them to make a Rush Hour 4, which nobody was asking for, which I don't know why anybody would consider going back to doing another Rush Hour film at this point, but you get the idea. So yeah, I mean, this whole thing really just screams of, somebody who just, this is basically, Paramount's basically the equivalent of a stalker trying to get the girl that he wants. And the girl basically just keeps telling him, no means no. And it's just like he's doing whatever it takes to sit. It's before, at some point, the cops have to be called in here, which the cops are not going to get called in on this situation, unfortunately. And I really do hope that Warner Brothers does not bend the knee to this. It looked like because every time they do this, it's just like, oh, we'll maybe take a look at it. And then they basically say, no, we're not going to do this. So I hope that this is not something where they look at it and go like, okay, we'll actually agree to this. Because it really... Like, nobody wants to see Warner Brothers being owned by Paramount at this point, especially with the way that they're in right now. At least as Warner Brothers and Netflix makes more sense. We touched on this more than many times here, and yeah, this is sadly a story that is not going away anytime soon. So hopefully this will get sorted out soon, and hopefully this does not result in Warner Brothers selling off to Paramount in the end. But at this point, you never know. But it's a story that's definitely going to be something we'll continue to monitor throughout the course of the year, because this is definitely going to continue on very much all the way until the very end of the year when this thing expires. Basically, David Ellison will never give up on Warner Brothers, even though he'll probably gamble everything he has to get it. And what will that lead in the end to? Absolutely nothing. So more money lost than more money gained at this point. So. Alright, so anyway, let's go ahead and move on to some movie stories this week. So it's looking like a good time to be a Mummy fan right now, because you got a new movie coming out in April from Lee Cronin, the director of Evil Dead Rise. And just this week, we found out that there's going to be yet another Mummy movie coming out, this time a fifth installment. No, it's a fourth installment, because there was only 3 Mummy movies plus the Scorpion King spin-off, but there's going to be a fourth installment of the Mummy franchise that features the return of Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz. This comes from The Hollywood Reporter, and it says, after months of negotiations, Universal has closed deals for the pair of Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz to return for a new installment of the studio's turn-of-the-century action horror comedy, The Mummy. The film is being directed by Matt Bettinelli Open and Tyler Gillett, also known as Radio Silence. And that right there makes this movie for me go like, sounds good, keep coming. And with deals finally closed, Universal also set a release date for the feature, announcing Tuesday, a May 19th, 2028 wide opening. Plot details are being kept under wraps, but it is known that the actors will return to the roles of Rick and Evelyn O'Connor. Fraser led the trio of movies made between 1999 and 2008, while Weisz starred in the first two, and then she was replaced by Maria Bello, which, I mean, you're going to replace Rachel Weisz with Maria Bello. People, I think, are going to notice the difference here, people, but I digress. David Coggeshall, the family plan and orphan first kill, wrote the screenplay for the film. Sean Daniel, who produced the original movie with his late partner James Jacks, is back as producer. William Sherrock, James Vanderbilt, and Paul Neinstein will produce through Project X Entertainment. The trio are frequent collaborators on Radio Silence and work with the filmmakers on the 2 recent Scream movies, which revitalized the franchise for the 2020s, and vampire horror movie Abigail for Universal. Directed and co-written by Stephen Sommers, The Mummy brought an Indiana Jones flair to the classic Universal monster line, combining action, element, adventure, and romance with horror in a period setting. The movie, released in May 1999, saw Fraser as treasure hunter who travels to Egypt in the 1920s with a spunky librarian played by Weisz, only to accidentally awaken a supernaturally powered high priest. The movie, which grossed over $422.5 million, launched a franchise that was one of Universal's big and reliable titles in the early 2000s, and made Fraser into a leading man and an A-lister. Was he really I mean, I like Brendan Fraser and all, but that last sentence doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. First off, one of Universal's big and reliable titles in the early 2000s. Reliable titles? Really? I mean, I'm more concerned about that line than the fact of Fraser being a leading man and an A-lister, which he was back then. I'll give him that, but let me go back on here. There was also a prequel, The Scorpion King, featuring an early performance by Dwayne Johnson in an animated series, not to mention a popular ride at Universal Studios Hollywood. Mummy showed the studio the enduring appeal of its monster movie legacy. In total, the franchise has grossed over $1.8 billion theatrically, and opened the door to develop new movies and takes on the characters, even if many failed. Van Helsing, anyone? Or never made it to fruition at all. Creature from the Black Lagoon, forever stuck in development swampland. So yeah, as I've said before, I'm not the biggest fan of the Mummy movies. I don't hate them, I just never really got into them overall. I will say the first one is at least somewhat fun overall. The Mummy Returns is fun and it's so bad it's good levels, and featuring some of the most hilarious, over-the-top moments I've ever seen. Not just the bad CG, but just some of the placements. I mean, I always remember the scene where the Scorpion King, in its bad CG form, is, about to stab Brendan Fraser, and then Arnold Vosloo comes in, like, with his hands up in the air, screaming, "No!" Like, it's a picture, it's a scene that you could just take a picture of it, put it on the wall, and you could just say, that's art right there, because that's so bad. It's beautiful to look at. And then Tomb of the Dragon Emperor is just a steaming pile of garbage. But yeah, I don't know. Like, I mean, I wasn't a fan of the Mummy movies. The only thing that really got me excited about this was the fact that, you got Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz coming back, but more importantly, the guys of Radio Science who did the Ready or Not movies. And I mean, these guys know what they're doing, and it's a shame that they couldn't come back to do the next, the current Scream movie overall, and they basically have just restarted the whole thing from the very beginning again. So it's basically back to being about Neve Campbell, which, I mean, why would you go and do that, man? It just makes no sense whatsoever. They got rid of the main stars because of something she said, because of something trivial that she said. I mean, just, it makes no sense whatsoever. But these guys have made a lot of good movies that I've definitely enjoyed, movies I'm definitely looking forward to, like Ready or Not 2 coming out next month. So yeah, I'm definitely excited to see what they do with this overall. So that'll at least get me to go see a Mummy movie on the big screen for once. So, hey, as long as it's not as bad as the Tom Cruise Mummy movie, we're all good. So let's go ahead and move on to another movie from the 2000s getting a reboot with a lot of promise to it. That's right, they are doing a new movie version of The Mist, Stephen King adaptation that was previously adapted into a 2007 movie by the Weinstein Company. But here is Deadline Hollywood with the exciting news. Warner Brothers is reuniting frequent collaborators Mike Flanagan and Stephen King on a new adaptation of The Mist based off of King's acclaimed 1980 novella. Mike Flanagan will direct and write the screenplay. He will produce The Red Room alongside Tyler Thompson and Spyglass's Gary Barber and Chris Stone. Alexander Magistro will also executive produce for Red Room. I mean, at that point, it's just kind of like, all right, my ticket's already been purchased for this. In the midst, a small town in Maine is consumed by a thick, mysterious fog for which creatures emerge to attack the townsfolk. A group of survivors hole up in a local grocery store. As often happened with King's fiction, anarchy and societal reordering brings out the best in some and the absolute worst in others, sparking mob mentality and empowering unhinged extremists who become as dangerous as the horrors inside. The novella was previously adapted into a short story called Skeleton, originated in the King short story Skeleton Crew, and was previously turned into a 2007 film as well as a 2017 TV series. That I don't remember. So that should probably tell you something about how memorable that show was. Flanagan has been busy with King's works, directing Gerald's Game, the Shining sequel Dr. Sleep, and Life of Chuck, which I've yet to see that yet. I have to go check that out at some point. He has also been engaged in a new adaptation of King's first published novel, Carrie, as a miniseries for Prime Video. So, yeah, I mean, right from the fact that they got Mike Flanagan coming back for this, it's just kind of like, okay, I'm all in on that one. Mike Flanagan is probably the greatest thing to happen to horror right now, and yeah, it's somebody who, yeah, anytime his name is attached to something, I'm there opening weekend for that. As far as The Mist itself, I thought it was alright. I think the movie did a pretty good job with its character development and the genuine threatening monsters outside the store and inside the store. And, I thought the ending actually kind of worked in that movie's favor, even though it was radically different by what was in the original Stephen King novella overall. So I do think it is a story that can work. Again, it's kind of odd that they're doing a remake of it again, but we'll see what happens. But with Mike Flanagan involved, it's basically like, give me my ticket now. I'm ready to see this today. But I mean, yeah, I can't wait to check it out when it comes out. When it eventually does come out. We don't know when exactly it will come out, but hey, Mike Flanagan, you give that guy anything right now, it's going to be something where I'm going to be there opening weekend. I'll be there for when the new Exorcist reboot comes out next year. So anyway, let's go ahead and talk about another classic, another memorable, not even classic, I'm saying like The Mist is a classic or anything, but let's talk about the return of one of the premier comedy shows of many people's generations, and that is, of course, MST3K. Mystery Science Theater 3000 is coming back once again. We're about to head back up to the Satellite of Love, not only with the MST3K crew, but also Rifftrax, as Variety has the story here. Rifftrax and Shout Studios have teamed to produce 4 new episodes of Mystery Science Theater 3000. Rifftrax has launched a Kickstarter campaign to help fund the new episodes and to provide production updates for fans. Rifftrax stars and MST3K alums Michael J. Nelson, Kevin Murphy, and Bill Corbett will be the creative leads on the new episodes, which are officially titled Mystery Science Theater 3000 The Rifftrax Experiments. Nelson will also reprise his on-screen role as Mike Nelson, while Murphy will once again play Tom Servo and Professor Bobo, and Corbett will again play Crow T. Robot and Brain Guy. In addition, original series star Mary Jo Pell will return as Pearl Forrester. Getting a chance to revisit MST after all this time has really energized us all at Rifftrax, Nelson said. And for my part, hey, I truly do miss standing next to plastic puppets. It's been too long. The Kickstarter campaign is now live and will run through March 16th. The goal is to raise $20,000 in celebration of the 20th anniversary of Rifftrax, though the episodes will be produced regardless of the fundraising total. The 4 movies that will be featured in the new episodes will be revealed over the course of the campaign. Production will take place in Minneapolis, where the original show was filmed, while the episodes will be released later on this year on Rifftrax's website. And in true MST3K style, the producers have committed to featuring the same kind of cheap practical sets and props that the original show was famous for using. And yeah, basically, this is something that's got a lot of people really excited about this whole thing. You know, MST3K and Rifftrax coming together. Rifftrax basically is the spiritual successor to MST3K. I mean, MST3K pretty much was well known for being just simply the place where they looked at cheesy movies, the worst they can find. And Rifftrax basically was just like, yeah, we can just do riffings on pretty much any movie in general. And that's basically what they've done here with Rifftrax's success over the years. I mean, it's hard not to get excited when these guys do something new in general here. So yeah, naturally, a lot of us should be very, very excited for this in general. I'm trying to see if I can find what the first movie was, because they did announce it not too long ago. Let me see if I can find it on their Kickstarter. Well, needless to say, they're definitely going to make it back, because they've already got $1.9 million as of February 15th at 7:30 p.m. as I'm recording this. I'm trying to see if I can find where the first movie is, because I think they did announce it. I think it was, I want to say Bloodsport, I think it was? DevSport was what it was. DevSport, which, that one I don't remember too much here. Let's take a listen to the video here. See if I can maybe remember it. Okay, it's supposedly a movie with David Carradine, produced by Roger Corman, and also one of the stars of the infamous MST3K episode, Werewolf, or Wowwoof, if you remember that one. But, yeah, it's basically just a trailer here. I thought there was going to be, like, some comedy thrown in here, but... So, yeah, that's what the movie is going to be, DevSport, but, a movie I'd not really heard of before, so... But, yeah, that's all I had to say about that one. Hey, MST3K is coming back, and what better way to do it with the guys from Rifftrax, so, yeah, take that for what you will. So let's go ahead and move on to our last movie story of the weekend. Probably the most baffling one I saw this entire week. And that is the news that Charlie's Angels is getting yet another reboot. I mean, they are basically, Sony is saying that we don't care that this franchise probably has overstayed its welcome overall. There's somewhat of an audience for it somehow, but let's go ahead and take a look at the story in Variety. A new trio of crime fighters might utter the trademark greeting, "Good morning, Charlie," on the big screen once again. Sony Pictures is in early development on a new feature version of Charlie's Angels, the female-fronted 1970s TV crime drama turned big screen action movie franchise. Screenwriter Pete Chiarelli has been tapped to pen a screenplay for the new project, which is now in early development. Chiarelli is best known for his works Crazy Rich Asians, Now You See Me Too, The Proposal, and Sony Pictures' most recent movie Go. So 3 out of 4 ain't bad, which debuted in theaters on Friday. Charlie's Angels, a crime drama about a trio of women working at the Townsend Private Detective Agency, debuted in 1976 and quickly dominated the pop culture conversation. The series originally casted Kate Jackson, Farrah Fawcett, and Jacqueline Smith in the leading roles and catapulted them into TV history. Cheryl Ladd joined the show in Season 2 and starred through the rest of its 115-episode run. John Forsythe voiced their unseen boss, Charlie Townsend, who directed the operation over the telephone. At the turn of the century, Drew Barrymore, Cameron Diaz, and Lucy Liu assembled the iconic roles of the crime-fighting angels and launched the franchise into blockbuster territory. The reboot, 2000's Charlie's Angels, directed by Mick G., was a major box office success, grossing $264 million worldwide and spawning the 2003 sequel, Full Throttle. Barrymore produced the movie under her Flower Films banner. However, more recent attempts to relaunch the franchise have been less successful. The 2011 TV reboot starring Annie Ilonze, Minka Kelly and Rachel Taylor as the Angels, with Ramon Rodriguez as Bosley and Victor Garber as the voice of Charlie, was canceled after 8 episodes of the 13 episodes ordered at ABC. In 2019, Elizabeth Banks directed a new version of the movie franchise starring Kristen Stewart, Naomi Scott, and Ella Balinska as the fighting trio. The film tied in elements of both the original TV series and the 2000 movies, including featuring Banks as one in a network of Bosleys, but the project ultimately underperformed at the box office, earning $73 million globally. But as the 50th anniversary of the landmark series approaches, it's no surprise that Sony is reevaluating its big screen potential. After all, the IP's cult status remains ubiquitous, and there's no shortage of brilliant, beautiful actresses who would relish the chance to work with Charlie and kick some ass. I really don't doubt that completely, because let's be honest here. Yeah, Charlie's Angels, the movies, were successful back in 2000 and 2003, but if you go back and watch those movies now, I watched them not too long ago for Time About the Movies, and I gotta tell you something. Those movies do not hold up well over time at all. In fact, they are really pretty bad. Yeah, there's definitely a lot of stuff in that original Charlie's Angels movie that really would not fly in today's world, especially the over-hypersexuality of it that happens throughout the course of these movies. These films do not have the best visual effects overall, and it's definitely, I'll say this, it's a movie where it's a product ahead of its time. It's a very 2000s movie, and I guess the thing that does kind of work about that original film is the fact that the three actresses are very good playing those roles. You do like watching Cameron Diaz, Lucy Liu, and Drew Barrymore's camaraderie together, and it's also cool to see Bill Murray as Bosley. I think he was actually one of the best things about the movie in general here, even though he was really half-assing it overall, but, still better than a lot of the other performances in the movie. Charlie's Angels Full Throttle, on the other hand, is a completely different story. The sequel was basically just them doing the same thing, except upping up the sexuality and all that type of stuff, but the only thing that really were the strongest things about the movie were not even with the Angels themselves, just the fact that, Demi Moore was pretty good as the villain, and, Bernie Mac I thought was very funny as Bosley, even though there wasn't a great connection with how he's related to Bill Murray's character overall. And really, when it came down to it, Charlie's Angels really does feel like something that was just a product of its time period in the 1970s. I mean, it worked back then because it was so revolutionary and new. You didn't have a show like this where you had three strongly written, well-acted ladies there with Farrah Fawcett, Jacqueline Smith, and Cheryl Ladd. And, but, with a movie like this, with them doing in the new generation, it really feels like the whole idea of what Charlie's Angels was supposed to mean back in the day kind of got lost in the shuffle, especially with the Elizabeth Banks directed reboot, which was one of the major disappointments of the last couple of years. I think it actually ended up being on my worst of the year list that year. But, it's a movie where it's an idea that I think is just well past the time where it could actually make for an entertaining movie in general here. And I think that ship has sailed on that, really. I don't think you can really add anything new to Charlie's Angels that hasn't already been said back in the day. I personally don't know how you're going to be able to do this again for a new generation, but, I don't know. I guess, I don't know. We'll see what happens. This might be one of those projects where they talk about it, they say, oh, we're definitely going to do this, and then they completely say, we can't really do anything else with this already. We've already tried. This is like our fifth attempt to try to reboot this franchise for a new generation, and it has not worked since the McG movies. And even then, the McG movies aren't that memorable either. But, yeah, I don't know. To me personally, I just don't see this working anytime soon. But we'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and move on to what is surely going to be the most controversial topic of the week, and that is the... Oh, excuse me. Good Lord. It's so controversial I can't even talk right now. Ooh, good Lord. Sorry. I had to burp there for a second. But let's talk about what happened at the Super Bowl with the Turning Point All-American halftime show. Now, this is not going to be me talking about this because I did not watch this. And I really wasn't invested in either this or the regular halftime show in general. Well, not because I hate Bad Bunny like, these conservatives do and all that, but... I never really got into the halftime show in general at the Super Bowl. And when it's on, I just mute the TV, put on some videos, and do something else until the halftime show is over. That's really what it is with the halftime show. I saw the halftime show muted, and it looked impressive. I like the fact that when it comes to the halftime show, it all of a sudden turns into like a movie, and the way the effort they put into it was really impressive overall. But yeah, in terms of the All-American Halftime Show, of course I didn't watch that. Why would I want to watch that in general here? But it's just, it was something that just wasn't in my interest overall, and I just been seeing stuff before the halftime show where, people essentially were just, they were already trashing it already because the fact that they couldn't even get simple licensing restrictions about 30 minutes before the show even began. So they basically had to make it simply a YouTube video show instead of it being on X and all that. And just, I thought that was really fucking hilarious, man. It's just like, and apparently the whole thing was not even shot that day. It's not even a live thing. They shot this over a couple of days. It was pre-taped in an Atlanta, Georgia studio with over 200 people in the audience. Most of them were reportedly plants, too. I think they paid him a lot of money to just act excited and all that. And it definitely showed when you see, like, the little bits and pieces of it, to the point where, the thing was obviously very criticized, to the point where, Kid Rock was seen lip-syncing his performances. And, of course, not too long after that, he went on Fox News to basically tell everybody, no, you're the crazy ones. My show was amazing. Pretty much that.
When I saw the rough cut, I was like, you guys got to work on that sync. It's off. So it was just a syncing issue that they had, and I know they tried to get it right. It was very difficult.
Everybody sees that you're full of shit. And either you admit it because you don't want to look stupid, or you're in denial and you don't mind looking like a dumbass.
But it's always, you going to believe me or believe your eyes?
I'm going to believe my eyes, okay?
Well, you must be woke.
Yeah, I'm fully awake because my eyes are wide open. I saw that.
I mean, that's from the double toasted video they did on this, which is great stuff right there, and a true lambasting of what this little bit here. Because when you look at the clips from this, I mean, it's amazing how little effort they put into this at all. Like, you can definitely tell this thing was not put together well at all, from the way the music is queued up, from the way the set looks. Like, it literally does not look like there's literally anybody in this fucking room that's actually invested in this whole thing at all. None whatsoever. I mean, I'm not going to play any clips from the actual thing, but if you really want to see a version of this without having to watch this, I would recommend going to watch the very first episode of Silicon Valley and watching the first 5 minutes. The first 5 minutes is literally what this thing was, and that was basically Kid Rock making fun of himself back then when he wasn't all on Trump's ass and all that. But, I mean, that's a better representation of what this show was like when actually watching the fucking show. But it wasn't just him that was really bad in this, even though I'll say this. I listened to a little bit of Gabby Barrett, because Gabby Barrett is from around here, so it's kind of Gabby Barrett, of course, was, she was born around here. She was on American Idol, of course. And yeah, so naturally I saw that part there. She was perfectly fine. She was actually the one thing that actually was worth it in the end. But then you got to some other ones here, like this one in particular. I can't remember who this was, but just the song he was playing was so ridiculous.
I just want to catch my fish, drive my truck, drink my beer.
Is this
like catch my fish, drive my truck, drink my beer? Apparently that's not it's not American if you're not allowed to do that. It's like, is somebody stopping you from doing that? Because if you go online and watch Karen videos, that's pretty much what most of these people who are Republicans and conservatives are like. Like, you can't go fishing here, you can't drink your beer here, you can't have a truck like this. I mean, yeah, it's mostly them. And this song's basically going like, I just want to catch my fish, drink my beer, drive my truck. Like, none of this makes any sense whatsoever, and it just makes you go like, what the hell were they thinking here? But surely the president, who was so excited for this whole thing in general here, and just what is because of the fact that he's not going to, is like, he doesn't want to watch the Super Bowl halftime show and all that. But surely he enjoyed this. No, there's literally videos out there where he and his party were literally hate watching the halftime show. And then he already had a preset review set on Truth Social to talk about how much he hated it. A preset review. Like, it didn't matter what the fuck it didn't matter what the fuck these guys were doing, because Donald Trump's not watching this. He wants to watch the thing where he's gonna get content and clicks and views, and sure enough, that's exactly what happened here. No wonder he didn't go to the Super Bowl, because I guarantee you that he would have already been on Twitter talking about it before the show even began. But I think it's kind of amusing when you look back at not just the show itself, but the reactions. Variety put out a very intriguing article about what they learned about MAGA men after watching the Bad Bunny halftime show and the Turning Point halftime show. So yeah, this is an article called "What Bad Bunny Super Bowl Halftime Show." What I learned about MAGA men after responding to angry emails about Bad Bunny's Super Bowl halftime show. And so the article goes, I wrote that the hastily assembled Kid Rock headlining TPUSA event was no match for Bad Bunny's jubilant and welcome celebration, and my essay took it to task. I braced for plenty of feedback on social media and comments on the post. Little did I know that so many people would take the time to email me their enraged sentiments. It was surprising given the barrier to entry. It's one thing to fire off a reply on X, but it's another to click on my author page, find my email address, draft a message, and they send it. There's inherently a level of intimacy conveyed by email. The sender wants to know that I see it, to get as close as possible via my most prioritized messages. Most writers are smart enough to never feed the trolls since it gives them attention they crave, but something about receiving these particular emails inspired me to respond to a handful, perhaps try to pinpoint why they crave this attention. The first message I responded to struck me as intellectually compared to the email stuffed with the most crude, homophobic language and egregious typos imaginable. Two commonalities in nearly all responses. In contrast, this sounded downright scholarly. Quick question. How long before the halftime show began did you complete the article Variety posted? I'm no fan of the current president, but the media continues to show it has no interest in credibility with this resist everything practice. We deserve better. Sadly, you are more concerned with pushing a predetermined narrative and reporting. And it says here, I didn't love the implication that I pre-wrote the article, as I watched in both good faith before getting words down. And while I am no supporter of the president, my opinion is my own and nuanced, not as anything resembling a media-wide agenda journalists are so oftenly accused of. My response, I finished about 5 minutes before the game ended. I watched both shows first. I know what you're getting at, but my article is filled with specifics with both information, so I don't know what to tell you. Shortly after, a rather lengthy response from troll number 1 hit my inbox, and there was some intriguing nuance to it, given that my response wasn't mean. He opened his message eager to group up together against the hoi polloi. I'll elaborate in a respectful fashion, and I appreciate your comments and response. It is how a civilized nation should act, something that we have lost. It felt reductive to remind him that he's the one cold emailing journalist to tell them what a bad job they're doing, so I kept reading. From there, he shared opinions on many topics, how he didn't consider my argument to be fair, given the unlimited resources of the NFL versus the lo-fi TPUSA concert, commercialization of both events, how this background as an economist has had him preaching a return to national sanity for quite some time, his political affiliation, and his wife's status as a naturalized citizen. It's just kind of like, of course the NFL is going to have much more resources than a Turning Point USA concert. Sorry, I don't know what else to tell you about that. That's me saying that, but after responding to a few of his critiques, troll number 1 ended our correspondence with, I appreciate the engagement with me. It speaks volumes of your character. Hopefully how you and I have communicated can be contagious for others. Please be well. Considering that 4 messages ago he cold emailed me, called into question my professional ethics, it was odd to receive a seemingly sincere compliment from a stranger who now believes our communication could be a blueprint for other people. Could it? Much has been made of this modern male loneliness epidemic, and this report from the American Institute for Boys and Men contains some interesting data points, including the sobering take that there are 5 times as many men who say they have no close friends as they were in 1990. I mean, honestly, I can't argue with that, but combine that with social media platform algorithms that favor posts that ignite strong emotion, I think that these men just desperately want someone to talk to engage with, to tell them that they exist and their opinions matter. I feel lucky. I have a phone of supportive family members and friends that I could chat with in any emotional state, so I decided to recontextualize these emails in mine. Lashing out with cruel language is a way to get attention, even if it is negative. But when I showed a moment of tendency of understanding, there was always a response to want to connect in some way, even if moments before I represented something evil and backwards to them. Take the opening line of this article, which was the entirety of another email sent with the subject line, Kid Rock. I Googled the email address of the sender and found out that he was active in this community. To troll number 2, I responded, "Hey there, I can tell you're a good guy. I searched your email address on Google, and your work with the local church popped up. It's great that you're serving your communities by organizing St. Patrick's Day dinners. I know you disagree with what I wrote, but I still hope you find a fulfilling life and maybe funnel some of the frustrations from this email into further helping your community and church. It will feel better than cussing out someone you don't even know on the internet. I can guarantee it." After another back and forth, a similarly unexpected denouncement. "William, you are obviously a nice guy and a good person. I am truly sorry for what I said to you," because William is the guy who wrote this article. So it's very interesting how people took to this whole thing. Like, if you have a constructive argument with somebody here, I mean, you can honestly make the point. You can honestly get a point across here better than just going on there and just lambasting something by saying, "You're wrong. How dare you write this before you even see the thing?" It's just kind of like, dude, get over yourself, man. And that's like, and again, with the whole thing, this whole thing with this halftime show basically just did nothing. I mean, they made such a big deal about the fact that, how dare they do this show? We're going to have our own halftime show with blackjack and hookers, and you know what? Forget the halftime show, pretty much. And the people that should have been watching it, they weren't watching it. They were hate watching the Bad Bunny halftime show and giving that show more viewers than this Turning Point show will ever have. I mean, yeah, you could say that, it did 6 million viewers and all that type of stuff. It's just like, okay, so what? People are not going to remember this except the fact that, wow, you guys are so against what is something so trivial and so not really that much of a big deal in general here, that you're going to do this halftime show that makes you look even stupider by comparison by doing something like this. Like, yeah, I get it. This is going to get a lot of flack and all that, and I don't care, man. I just felt like I had to say something about this because, yeah, the reactions to this were very intriguing overall, and it's good to see that people were able to start off as trolls with some guy and then basically have a conversation about it, and they basically said, okay, maybe I don't agree with you, but I get what you're saying, and you obviously are a good person. So there's at least some peace in the world I think we can have here with this whole thing, but I don't know. That's just my whole thing on that in general. I'm not watching this halftime show in full because, no, I'm not going to torture myself with that. So unless there's nothing bad for the worst shows of the year, then maybe I'll check it out. But no, not anytime soon. So let's go ahead and move on to what I think a lot of you will think will be one of the worst shows ever, the Reviewing Network Awards, which will be coming up next month. Yes, that's right, ladies and gentlemen. The 4th ever Reviewing Network Awards will be held Saturday, March 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, one night before the Academy Awards, where the real awards will be presented to the movies. Hopefully, pulling for Sinners blowout this year. Hopefully it wins Best Picture, and if one battle another wins Best Picture, I'll be happy with that too. But I'm really pulling for Sinners to win that one, hoping that it wins a number of awards. But this is kind of my little alternative to the Academy Awards in general, where I give the movies that did not get the proper respect at the Oscars their proper dues. And overall, this year's nominations were much harder to put together than I could have imagined here. I tried to put together a list of the movies that I really enjoyed and the performances I really enjoyed this year, and it was a much harder list to put together than in previous years in general. But lo and behold, the list is officially revealed. We have that. We have the recipients of this year's Achievement Award. We have the Worst Year in Hollywood Award. We don't have a new award this year. I thought about doing a new one this year, every year, but I couldn't figure out what kind of new award I wanted to do for this year in general here. So it's the same number of awards we had in last year's award show. So let's go ahead and get right to the nominees. Let's start off with let's start down at the bottom. Let's start with the Worst Year in Hollywood Award. This is one of the new ones we introduced last year. And of course, the winner of that one was Amelia Perez, with all the controversies going on behind the scenes, and essentially cost its leading star the potential to win the Academy Award for Best Actress. And actually, it lost out on several awards. It was considered a Best Picture frontrunner when the nominations came out. It had I think it had 13 nominations when it came out. When the Oscar nominations came out. But the only one who ended up winning anything was the Best Original Song, I believe, and also the Zoe Saldana winning Best Supporting Actress, who really was the best thing about that movie in general. But who are this year's Worst Year in Hollywood Award nominees? And we have a couple of notable big ones here. Starting off with Disney, with the whole debacle with Jimmy Kimmel and the fact that he was suspended for what he said about Charlie Kirk. AI, a number of other different things in general that happened with Disney over the last year. Paramount David Ellison taking over and immediately usurping David Zaslav as the biggest scumbag in Hollywood, and his basic simping for Warner Brothers that will never go away. Warner Brothers for how they're handling the Netflix Paramount merger debacle. CBS for how they treated Stephen Colbert and how they're destroying CBS News. And lastly, sequels and remakes. This was probably one of the worst years for sequels and remakes in recent history because there were so many unnecessary sequels, unnecessary reboots that we did not need. Some of them turned out to be good. Some of them will be in these nominations. But yeah, there's definitely a number of them that were pretty bad and pretty pointless overall. So those are the worst year in Hollywood nominees. We'll go ahead and take a look at the Network Achievement Awards this year. The last couple of years, we've had people like Denzel Washington, Conan O'Brien, Steven Spielberg, Sally Field. Conan and Sally were the recipients last year, so I'm doing two again this year. This time, I'm doing two people I've respected very well over the course of the time that I've known them. The late great Leslie Nielsen will be one of the recipients of the Achievement Award this year. Of course, he passed away about 16 years ago, but he was one of those great actors who was not only a great dramatic actor, but was the king of slapstick comedy for a number of years in the 90s and 2000s. And of course, one of the great entertainers we've had out there, Neil Patrick Harris. I mean, this is a guy that I've always loved. I've always really appreciated his work. So he and Leslie Nielsen are going to be honored at this year's Achievement Awards with two separate segments based on their respective careers. And they'll be joining, as I said, Steven Spielberg, Denzel Washington, Conan O'Brien, and Sally Field in the honorees this year. So with all that said, let's get to the actual nominees this year. The nominees for Streaming Picture of the Year this year are Another Simple Favor, Fixed, Highest to Lowest, Predator, Killer of Killers, Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Story, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul. And keep in mind, I have not seen all of the movies that are nominated this year for the Oscars and all that. I haven't seen K-Pop Demon Hunters yet. I haven't seen Marty Supreme. I haven't seen Hamnet, Begonia, all those movies that are nominated. So they're not going to be in this list. This is just a list of movies that I've seen this year and are in this list here. So that's why K-Pop Demon Hunters is not in there. So before anyone asks that, that's the reason why. For the best sequel, the nominees are Final Destination Bloodlines, The Black Phone 2, The SpongeBob Movie Search for SquarePants, Wake Up Dead Man, A Knives Out Story, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and Zootopia 2. For Best Animated Picture, the nominees are The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, Elio, Fixed, Predator, Killer of Killers, The SpongeBob Movie Search for SquarePants, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and Zootopia 2. For Best Screenplay, the nominees are David Koepp for Black Bag, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie by Peter Brongard, One Battle After Another by Paul Thomas Anderson, Ryan Coogler for Sinners, and Superman James Gunn. For Best Supporting Actress, the nominees are Jamie Lawson for Sinners, Amy Madigan for Weapons, Aubrey Plaza for Honey Don't, Wumi Musaka for Sinners, Haley Steinfeld for Sinners, Sydney Sweeney for The Housemaid, and Teyana Taylor, One Battle After Another. For Best Supporting Actor, the nominees are Miles Catton for Sinners, Nicholas Hoult for Superman, Delroy Lindo for Sinners, Sean Penn, One Battle After Another, Benicio del Toro, One Battle After Another, Danny Houston for The Naked Gun. For Best Actress, the nominees are Pamela Anderson for The Naked Gun, Cate Blanchett for Black Bag, Cynthia Erivo for Wicked for Good, Ariana Grande for Wicked for Good, Vanessa Kirby, The Fantastic Four, First Steps, Chase Infinity, One Battle After Another, Margaret Qualley, Honey Don't, and Amanda Seyfried for The Housemaid. For Best Actor, the nominees are David Cornsweet for Superman, Leonardo DiCaprio for One Battle After Another, Michael Fassbender for Black Bag, Michael B. Jordan for Sinners, Jonathan Majors for Magazine Dreams, and Liam Neeson for The Naked Gun. For Best Director, the nominees are Paul Thomas Anderson for One Battle After Another, Ryan Coogler for Sinners, Zach Cregger for Weapons, James Gunn for Superman, and Steven Soderbergh for Black Bag. And the Best Picture nominees this year are Black Bag, The Day the Earth Blew Up, a Looney Tunes movie, The Fantastic Four, First Steps, The Naked Gun, One Battle After Another, Sinners, Superman, Wallace and Gromit, Vengeance Most Foul, and Weapons. So yeah, like I said, you don't see a lot of the Oscar contenders this year in this. There's no Marty Supreme. There's no, as I mentioned, K-Pop Demon Hunters. There's no Train Dreams. There's no Begonia, no Hamnet. But like I said, this is from all the movies that I've seen up to this point in time. On February 15, 2016, these are the movies that I have seen up to this point. So that's why the list is as it is. And like I said, this was a tough category to put together because there wasn't really a huge assortment of movies that I felt like should have been put in here as there were in the last couple of years, and there were a lot of good performances in the acting, especially in the actress category, that I really had to figure out, what do I have to take out here? What do I got to put in here? And I mean, there's a lot of good performances that came out from these actresses this year, and some that didn't even get recognition at the Oscars. Specifically, I'm talking about, of course, Cynthia Erivo and Ariana Grande, and then you have performances from movies that not a lot of people really enjoy, but I enjoyed the hell out of it. Honey Don't, with Margaret Qualley and Aubrey Plaza getting nominations. Of course, I threw Amanda Seyfried and Sydney Sweeney for The Housemaid. I thought they were very good. Naked Gun getting a lot of love this year. I'm trying to see here which ones do I have the most nominees for. I think it's Sinners, if I'm not mistaken, because I have let's see. I think it is Sinners, because I have 9 nominations for Sinners and 8 for One Battle After Another. I think those are the top 2 that I have the most nominations for this year, because those are the 2 movies that I would say I really enjoyed the most. Of course, I really enjoyed Sinners a lot, and One Battle Another just barely missed my top 10 list of the year. So yeah, so there's all the nominations in general here, and I'm gonna do I'm gonna have a video on the main channel if you want to see the video revealing the nominations themselves. I'll get to that after I'm done recording this in general, but there you go. Those are the nominations. You heard them here first for the 2026 Reviewing Network Awards that will be held Saturday, March 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern, right here. Well, not here on the Reviewing Network Live, over on the main channel, the Reviewing Network. So with all that said, let's go ahead and wrap this up by taking a look at some recommendations for the week, and we can get on out of here. So yeah, the last couple of weeks have not had a whole lot of big new releases in general. It's actually been really slow for almost a month now. I haven't really gone out to buy stuff in general. In fact, I went out to Walmart yesterday. I was going to do a movie stop episode and record some of the stuff that was there. They literally had nothing over in the movie section. They had everything getting ready for the new releases this week, but then when you went around to see all the stuff they had before, it's my first time being in Walmart in over a month. So I figure, they change these out every month. So maybe, just maybe, I'll go in there and I'll find some new things in there. I didn't find one new thing in there in particular. Let me just tell you how bad it was. The 2 for $10 bin was literally near empty. Like, you could literally see every single movie that was in that pile. It was a small pile. Like, that's how bad it was. That's how picked over that section was. And that's just like, I couldn't believe how bad it was. I mean, I really was going to do a video for movie stop, and then afterwards I just kind of felt like, there's nothing really I can do here, because there's literally nothing here that I can talk about here. So yeah, that's how bad the last couple of weeks have been. But this week will definitely be much different, because we will have a number of new releases, a number of older releases. We got, in terms of new releases, the biggest new one is, of course, Predator Badlands, which I'm getting the steelbook for it this week, so hopefully it'll come in the mail this week, and I'll have it for the next movie stuff episode, whenever I do it. Excuse me. I'm having trouble talking today. And then again, I'm having trouble talking all the time, but, one of the new releases I'm kind of curious about is Rental Family, the Brendan Fraser movie that came out last November. I heard a lot of good things about it, so I'm definitely looking forward to checking that one out. It comes out on Blu-ray this week. Some other new releases this week include Five Nights at Freddy's 2, as well as Now You See Me, Now You Don't, the remake of Silent Night, Deadly Night, Song Sung Blue, and then in terms of catalog releases, Regretting You is another new release this weekend that's coming out. But in terms of catalog titles, there's new 4Ks for Ben-Hur, All the President's Men, A Beautiful Mind. Nightcrawler is getting a nice steelbook from Shout Factory. Small Soldiers is getting a 4K release, classic movie from the 90s from Joe Dante. Again, a lot of catalog titles. The Doors is getting a 4K steelbook, as is Dead Silence, Wrath of Man, Brotherhood of the Wolf. What else did I see? Trick or Treat's getting an Arrow 4K release. That's a very good movie. Godfather I guess they're re-releasing the 4K for The Godfather. I think they're also re-releasing the Transformers 1 steelbook again. If you didn't get it the first time around, check your Walmarts, because they might have them there. So it's a very, very busy week for new movie releases. It's been a while since we've had a week as packed as this in general. And then, sure enough, the week after that, it's back to mostly being just about catalog titles and stuff that, if you don't have it already, now's the time to get that type of stuff. So there you go. That's pretty much all we got for you for this week's episode of the Reviewing Network Live. And of course, we'll be back next week with another all-new episode. in this format. As like I said, we're done with the NFL for now, and we basically have to wait now until September for the new season to kick off before we do more of the Sunday Night NFL rewatch. But with all that said, thank you so much for joining me on this week's episode of the Reviewing Network Live. If you enjoyed this video and want to see more, hit the like button, subscribe button, notification button. Check out the last episode we did. Check out our playlist as well, and I will see you guys next Sunday night. So with all that said, thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Until then, we are out.